Hello and welcome to today's or tonight's stream. Anyway, it's nighttime for me, and tonight, well, depending whether it's day or night for you, we're going to be painting this scene of Nice in France. And I had a decent turnout for the last one. I painted a scene of Paris, and I thought, why not try this one out? This actually looks, I thought this was Italy. Well, I looked at the photo at first, but apparently it's it's Nice. I've never been there myself, but I thought this would be a really cool scene to try because we've got all these umbrellas, we've got figures, we've got these kind of tables here in the front that we can indicate. We've got also this really interesting light pattern. I've seen a few reference photos of this scene with various different shadow patterns as well. So I think this would be a good one to do, especially if you're interested in painting urban landscapes, you know, whether that mean the entire urban landscape or things like buildings, people, shadows, you know, little bits and pieces like this. I think this is going to be a fun one. So yeah, if you're watching along, I do see there's a bunch of you here in the chats on Facebook as well as YouTube. Let me know whereabouts you're watching from. Just type something below in the chat and just let me know how the audio and the video is going as well. Hopefully you can see and you can hear me okay. Sometimes there are some issues at the start, some crackliness, and actually before the stream had dropped out on Facebook, but it seems to be going okay now. But yeah, leave a message down in the comments if you can see and you can hear me okay, because this is going to be an interesting one and we're not going to take too long to draw and paint this as well. So guys, let's go ahead and get started with the drawing. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to put in where the bottom of the buildings are, just one line essentially where the bottom of the buildings are. And so I'm basically just trying to measure and see exactly whereabouts I want to put that area in, because that's where we need to leave a little bit so that we can have an area that it looks like the figures are walking on. I mean, there basically needs to be some ground here, okay? But in the reference photo, there's really not that much ground. It's actually quite it's like a very small slither. So I'm going to just estimate it to be roughly here, okay? Just estimate it to be roughly there, and we'll go from there and see what how we go. We might have to lower or raise it, probably raise it a little bit afterwards. We've got Foolish One on YouTube saying the audio and visuals are all good. That's fantastic, and good to see you again. Thank you for your support. It's I think you've been along to the last like 3 or 4 or maybe more. So yeah, I can't remember whereabouts you were watching from, but is it a decent time for you at least? Hopefully. So anyway, bit of that line there at the bottom, and these buildings, you really got to think of them as just 3 main shapes. Yeah, so we've got one building coming in here from the left. Okay, and that's like the side of the building. So I'm just going to draw it coming in first from the top of the top of the page, and that's like the front of the building, and then we're going to do the side of the building, also estimating whereabouts that side of the building is going to the end of the building is going to finish off. So I'd say roughly about here, okay, roughly about there, because it's not in the middle of the scene. I mean, right in the center of the scene we actually have where that main building in the middle starts off. So that's where we can actually mark out the middle, right in the center of the scene. We have got this large building that just reaches all the way up to the top, and I'm going to leave a bit of room as well up the top there, okay, just so that I can still get in some sky, a bit of that sky wash, okay. And I'm going to bring this down just one long line to sort of make it touch the base, the ground, like that. Okay, good. And look, when I'm doing this as well, I'm trying to get in a basic estimate. I'm not really bothering about exact proportions, okay, just as long as we have these 3 sort of shapes of these buildings running in, we should be all good to go. What's this one here? Like another building here to the yeah, kind of like separated out here. You know, these buildings just all kind of separate out, as you can see, and then they disappear off all the way into the distance back there. And you can actually see this building here kind of just curve around the back. In fact, like this, getting the side of this building a little bit as well, just to emphasize it a bit more. And we'll bring this all the way down, so we've got like the side of the building. Okay, and you know, the rest of it, which just kind of curves off into the distance, and you can't really see all that much back there. It's just yeah, it's just some basic buildings that off in the distance, and in fact it actually dips a bit lower. Okay, so I want to make sure that I've got this correct, otherwise the buildings are going to appear way too tall. Okay, so just make sure that, you know, if we've got that area where the bottom of the scene is here, it's around about in the middle of the scene, so it's roughly about here where the buildings kind of taper off and go into the distance like that. Okay, there we have it. All right. Okay, so I find this is the hardest part pretty much of the entire drawing, because once you get in the big shapes, the smaller shapes are very easy because you've placed a kind of guiding line, a blueprint of all the buildings, and that way, you know, for instance, that, you know, these umbrellas, they have to be in here. They have to be at the base of this building. Whereas if I start off with the small details, I'm really going to have trouble placing it where it is in the entire scene. And looks like your foolish one says, I'm just an hour ahead of you in Fiji. I was going to say Hawaii for a second, but yeah, that's good. That's you know, kind of a reasonable time. There's this horrible noise outside because, I don't know, they're doing some construction at the moment, so I'm not going to be able to sleep anyway. It's been going on for the past couple of nights. All right, yeah, I do see a bunch of you guys watching on Facebook. Leave a chat and let me know whereabouts you're watching from. Maybe something that you'd like to get out of today's session as well. I'm always happy to answer questions while you're all here. So, all right, so I'm going to bring this side of the building down, and of course, you know, this side of the building as well is interesting because we've got like look at this, we've kind of got this shade that comes out like that, this darker shade, and then off on the edge here we have ourselves this sort of umbrella here. It's very subtle, but some kind of umbrella. Ooh, I've stuffed that a little bit, but yeah, all right there. Good, and you've got this kind of sort of frilly material underneath the umbrella, the shade or whatever there. At the base, you've got the stem coming down like that. It's kind of like a little shade, you know. And here we've got like tables and stuff like that, all kinds of details back there. It's kind of hard to actually figure out whereabouts everything is exactly, but we will give it a crack. Here, just going to put in the top of the table, a bit of that, you know, kind of get in that 3D shape of it, like that. Okay, it's really just, if you think about it, it's really just like a boxy sort of shape. Okay, and we've got a chair here, like that. Obviously some legs on the table like this. You know, we're going to have maybe another one here to the right hand side, like that. There, and we've got another chair here. It's tricky because I can't really see too much of that chair. And technically that table is a bit further down actually from the scene. I might just change this up a little bit because I think I've probably should draw it further down, so that it just looks more like it's in the front of the scene. You know, when you're not paying attention, stuff like that can happen where you just place an object a little bit off where it should be. Okay, but I want to make sure I get this right. That tablecloth here, like that. It's really just, if you think about it, like a box, a kind of a cube-ish, cube sort of shape. Okay. Here. And the legs. And of course, we've got these chairs here as well. Just a bit of indication for that chair going underneath the table. You know, there's another one here as well, and just extending past down the bottom of the scene a touch as well. Okay, they're going to be real basic representations, nothing special. We've also got some people sitting in the background, like there's a person here just sitting with his back, and with another person here as well. They're just sitting together at the table eating. So this is going to be interesting to get in. There's also a person sitting kind of here, like in another table that's right in front. You can't really see it. Like, just put in an indication of the arms back there. Okay, we've also got another person here, just off in the distance. It could be a waiter or something like that. We've got like another box shape there, you know, and underneath this building as well, you do get this shape of a door behind. So I'm putting an indication of that door like that. Okay. I have to just extend this line out a touch here again. Okay, good. All right. So we've got more umbrellas. There's like a white umbrella here, and I'll just draw that in. There's some kind of signboard here as well behind. I just saw it. I don't know what exactly it is, but it's some kind of signboard, I think. There, underneath that part of the shade, the umbrella, you know, you've got another one in front here, and of course another one here in the back. These ones are going to be interesting because they're catching some of the light coming in from that. Well, it looks like it's coming in from the left-hand side of the scene. Bit of light coming in from the left-hand side of the scene. So we can capture some of that coming through the building like this. Sharp sort of shadow. And yeah, I'm also interested in maybe altering some of that light pattern there in the background, but we'll see how we go. I do really think I want to alter it a bit to make it more, a little bit more obvious than what it looks like currently. Okay. Alrighty. So here, you know, underneath these little umbrellas and stuff, we've got more figures. We've got this person here. We've got another person here. I'm just really being quite loose with the pencil, holding it down the back while I do this. Okay, so I can just avoid overthinking everything, because with this sort of detail, it's very easy to start overthinking what's happening. This guy's got his arm out. He's doing something sort of to the left like that. So I'm just going to put his couple of legs coming out. He's facing that way, doing something over there. You know, underneath, there's kind of these little bits and pieces as well. Let's have a look here on the right. Really, we've just got another side of the building. Okay, let's figure out whereabouts we want to end it off. I'd say, you know, similar sort of spot there. And let's draw a line to this dot like that. Good. And it comes in like this. Further down like this here, and coming down. So we've got like a more three-dimensional look to this building. Yeah, this is kind of an interesting looking scene. It's a lot more detailed than I thought it would than I thought it was initially. But the buildings, I want to make sure that center building especially has a really nice three-dimensional looking structure and clear outlines as to where the shadows are. So we know that there's going to be shadows here. Now this right hand side of the building, this building here, I'm just going to bring this up, draw a straight line, and we can simplify it by just drawing a straight line essentially all the way down, okay, to the bottom of the page like that. It's kind of like this building to the right hand side peeking in, and you wouldn't believe it, but there is a motorcycle here. Another motorcycle. I can't get away from drawing these things. Seem to be in all the recent paintings I've done so far. It may or may not kind of look like one in the end, but I think that sort of implies it. Little basic shape like that, and you know, through the center here I've actually left a bit more room than is necessary, but there is a, down at the base you can see that building there, that kind of white building there in the background. You know, we've also got 3 balconies that are kind of showing from this location. One, we've got a second one here. Hey Pamela, how you doing? Are you painting along to this one, or are you just watching along today? Good to see you. It's a lot of construction work going on outside at the moment. I don't think you can hear it because I've put on some kind of noise gate on the microphone, but there's no way I'm going to be able to sleep tonight. But I reckon I can pull off this painting. Definitely think I can pull off this one. I'm just taking a little bit longer with the drawing today. I don't want to be in too much of a hurry. I haven't done this particular scene before, and you know, my process is pretty much the same every single time, okay, with some minor adjustments. Sometimes, depending on the reference photo, I might paint the shadows, some of the shadows earlier on, wet into wet, and sometimes I'd paint them on kind of completely wet and dry. In this one, I'm really thinking to myself, how am I going to do the shadows? Because I do want to make them like a sharp shadow shape, but perhaps maybe more like, whatchamacallit, maybe more like exaggerated, eh? Like that. See how that, it's only like a slither of shadow in the reference, but just increase that a little bit. Lishwan's asking, is construction work going all night? Yeah, it has been lately. It's been going on till the early hours of the morning, and I don't think that should be happening, because it's like council regulations, stuff like that. But it's like, yeah, I don't really know where it's coming from. I'm in the city, so it's just this kind of faint drone at the moment. Yeah, so Pamela says just watching. That's awesome. There's another. Oh, there's quite a few of you guys on Facebook. Leave a message. Let me know. Let me know whereabouts you're watching from, and if you're new here as well. And thank you for coming along. Probably should have introduced myself, but I'm Darren Yeo. I'm an artist, a watercolor artist from Melbourne in Australia, and I run these workshops. I've run about 90, more than 90 of these workshops over the last couple of years. And today we're going to be painting this scene of Nice in France. So the top of the building here, I've just noticed there is this kind of, can you see it? This lip up the top for the the rooftop. So I'm going to go ahead and emphasize this a bit more, because I haven't done that already, and I think it just needs a bit more indicating, like that. Yeah, it's not that much on that left side of the building. It doesn't matter. It's more sort of on the top on the top and on the right hand side here, where I think it just makes sense to have a bit more of that lip there. That's gonna help you draw in a shadow afterwards. You know, there's other stuff here. You know, you see here there's this like another balcony there as well on the top of this rooftop here building. And you know, one thing I always kind of let you guys know every time in these scenes, you want to look when you're trying to get the right perspective in a scene. Look at the way the lines are. You know, look at how, see on the bottom of this balcony that I'm drawing, the lines that surrounds sort of the left and the right of the balcony, they are completely straight. Okay, so you draw those two straight lines and then essentially just connect them. Okay, and as you get further down, you know, you'll notice that the balcony becomes a little bit, the lines become closer together. Okay, but the angle remains pretty similar, like that. You really just have to observe the lines, and this is, you know, something that troubled me a lot when I was first learning watercolors. Just that basic perspective. You don't need to draw super well, but you do need to, especially if you're doing something like this, trying to pull off something like this outside. Painting outside, you do need a little bit of know-how with perspective, and the best way is really just to get out there and give it a go, but really pay attention, like I said before, to the directions of the lines. You know, really ask yourself, is that line straight, or is it, what angle is it on? Is it slightly slanted? That sort of thing's really gonna help you out. And we've got Tanya as well, Tanya Lovrich from Canberra. Thank you for coming along, Tanya. I think we've got a few Aussies here today, and Foolish One from Fiji. So just basically people who can make it at this kind of time. For most guys in the States who are usually watching, they are asleep at this time. But I'm trying not to do them too late where possible. I have actually arranged 2 more of these sessions in the future during March and April. So I've actually planned them out properly so that they're actually in the mornings here for us over in Australia, but for the rest of the world that will be night for them, so they'll be able to make these sessions as well, because these recent ones, I think people have definitely been struggling to make it here. Now I'm just drawing some more figures in the background, some more people, some smaller people as well. Okay, as we go into the distance, one thing you're going to find, and I mention this all the time, I feel like I'm really going over things like a broken record, but it's so important, especially if you're in objects at the back, get smaller. Okay, and that's one of the features of perspective. You know, if you want to get in a scene that actually has a bit of depth, that looks like kind of more realistic, true to life. You know, you want to make sure that things in the back, even the buildings, see how the buildings just get kind of smaller off in the back like that. Okay. All right. So we pretty much have like the gist of everything we need in here. I'm just looking around to see if there's potentially anything else. Like one thing that I have done before in the past is, you know, put in windows. That, you know, again, it's just good to outline them so that when you're painting, you're not having to think too much. So the base of this building, there is a kind of separation here, and there's a doorway. Okay, there's some kind of doorway behind there. We can get that in easy enough afterwards. But it's these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 windows that we need to suss out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so we've got the top one. I'm just trying to figure out the bottom of the window, like here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so let's draw in this top one. And you know, look, this is, again, it's really a simplified version of what I see. There are so many details here, and especially if you're a beginner, you're gonna really stress yourself out if you try to get these in really detailed. Just look at them. Look, it's just shapes. They're just rectangles. the 3 little rectangles here, 3 rectangles here. There's another one here. I'll draw the middle rectangle, and then there's the 2 on the side, which represent the shutters. Another one here. Whoops, like this. And it's not even, you know, if you look at the way I'm drawing, it's not perfect at all. There's little incongruencies here and there, but you know what? It doesn't matter. No one's going to notice in the end. With these sort of loose scenes, you just want to make sure you get in an indication of all these main features. Like the other windows, you can't really see what's going on. They just look like little slits on the side of the building. There's no need to bother with those at all. It's just these, you know, these other windows that have shutters and maybe a bit more nuance to it that I'll spend a bit more time indicating and adding in some details. But that's pretty much it for the drawing. I mean, really from now, I'm just sort of thinking to myself, what do I want to do with the shadow pattern? Do I want to still, do I want to make that shadow pattern a bit different? Do I want to keep the shadow pattern as is? Do I want to, you know, the big thing I was thinking about is getting kind of some imaginary light coming through the center of the scene, or just over the top of the shoulders of these figures somehow, you know, exaggerating. You see down at the back there, that sort of light pattern on the ground like that. You know, I was thinking of just getting a bit of that catching onto the figures, onto some of the figures, and just exaggerating that, the angle of that light more, because there is an absence of a lot of sharper light down the center of the scene where all these figures are. That looks fine, but I want to change it around a bit. I want to make it look a little bit different. And so that's pretty much it for the drawing. And let's go ahead and get started. Who else do we have here? We have got Nadia. How you doing, Nadia? Good to see you. Whereabouts are you watching from? And okay, I hope the video and audio is still okay. I know, Pamela, you're having some issues with the Facebook cutting out or something like that. Hopefully the video and the audio is going okay now, guys. It was yeah, I think just sometimes there are some technical kind of issues, but it seems all right at the moment. So we'll press on. Watching from Bangladesh. Welcome, Nadia. Good to have you here. You're new to this show as well. All right. So first step, let's put in a little wash of color, a basic wash of a light color, and I always like to start off with all my lights first, guys. Okay, because that's going to ensure that you preserve them until the end. Okay, so there's some yellow. This building, there's a lot of yellow on this building. Okay, so I'm just going to put in a bit of yellow. This is a touch of. I'm going to just alter this video setting a little bit. Seems like it is dropping off here and there. Maybe I can pause that. That will look a bit better. Okay. All right, so we've got a bit of yellow, a tiny little bit of lemon yellow, okay? And most of this is just water, okay? It's 90% water going through, and I'm putting that onto the building like this, okay, just on the sides of the building. And it's it's really vibrant yellow, and I'm tempted to just put in a bit of yellow ochre in there to dull it down. To dull it down slightly. Okay, so just going to dull that down slightly, but let's put in that yellow on the side and the top of that building, and I'm cutting around the windows as well, the sides of the windows for the shutters. Okay, down like this, okay, and we will again, yeah, just get this nice yellow wash running through. I'm keeping it really quite light, as always, because this is basically the light that's going to be left over right at the end when we finish off the scene, and when combined with all the shadows, it's actually going to make a lot more sense. You know, we've got some kind of orangey color for some of these buildings. I don't know, just a bit of more yellowy orange color. It doesn't matter. You know, for a lot of this stuff here, I just go in with a real almost abandon, just putting in the color, but not worrying too much about the technicalities of things. So here, you know, I've put in a bit of titanium white into the yellow to make it kind of this milky white looking color, and I'm coloring all over the entire scene. Look, the bottom of this umbrella as well has a bit of this milky white color, so I'm going to integrate some of that. In fact, the entire building is pretty much that, has that color on it. And we've got this, you know, we start moving down, and things like this umbrella here, for example, that's white, you know, kind of like a milky white color, so I can integrate a bit of that downwards. The side of that building, I'm going to get in a light wash as well, just a light wash of color there. Okay. Down below. Remember, at this stage of the scene, we're just placing color. We're not really trying to get in any detail at all. That, you know, people start thinking, what are you doing? You're going over everything. But, you know, that's what we want. We want to get in a light wash of color. We don't want any kind of sharpness in here at all yet. You know, I'm going to save that until later. Some more yellow here. Very light wash of yellow. As you can see, just one quick wash. There's things you can do, like, for example, I've got a bit of brown, like this is just a tiny bit of this, whatchamacallit, burnt sienna, and I can drop that burnt sienna in there like that. That creates a nice little soft edge, okay? Nice little soft edge. And let's continue onwards. Moving further down in the scene, the umbrellas, I'm going to mix up a bit of red and orange together and just put in a dash of that orangey color, red orangey color through here, these two umbrellas. I want some of that red coming through, showing through, and also on the top of this umbrella here to the left, touch of that red just peeking through the umbrella on the top of that umbrella there. Okay, if it spreads, don't worry about it as well. We'll deal with that later. Okay, but remember, very light washes at this stage. We don't want any surprises. Okay, so gonna go mix up some more color, and moving downwards through the page as well. This is where we can again just take a bit more time to do this. Moving down, and I'm going to mix myself up. Well, actually, firstly, I will put in down below on this building, there is some light here on the ground that I want to indicate. So we'll put in a light wash of color here first. Nice little light wash of color here on the ground for the kind of like that light pattern. All right, and because afterwards I'm going to get in a darker wash anyway, it doesn't matter. So we can kind of pretty much go over this entire part of this scene with a bit of this yellow, you know, except maybe some of the figures you might want to leave white, so then you can add in different colors for their clothing and that kind of thing. Okay, so that's it. Nice little wash that we have over everything at the moment. Good. So I will now start to work a little bit on the sky. Some people like to leave the sky really as light as that, but I'm gonna just put in a quick wash of cerulean blue, and I'm mixing that cerulean blue with a touch of grey as well to just dull it down a little bit. Okay, into the sky it goes. Into the sky it goes like this. More water. Okay, like that. And a lot of this stuff would have already started to dry, so we don't necessarily need to worry about the blue seeping into the buildings, because that was one of the first places that I actually started painting. Okay, it's just a little slither of sky in there, okay, to imply that it's there. That's it. Okay, great. So we have the gist of what we need in there now, all the light colors, and it should look just like you're almost thinking to yourself, this can't be it. Surely this can't be it. It doesn't look like there's anything there at all, but you just have to have some faith and give it a bit. Once it dries, once we put in the darker colors in here, that's when everything's going to start to show through. So I'm going to dry this off and I'll be back. All right, here we have it. We've got that first wash sorted, and for this second wash, we are just going to go into these buildings and get that nice light pattern. We're going to get it all hopefully done in one go in terms of the shadows on the buildings. So for that, I'm picking up a couple of mop brushes, like 2 different mop brushes, as you can see here, just smaller mop brushes. That's going to be great to pick up a lot of paint. Okay, and what I'm mixing up at the moment is I'm using a bit of blue, a bit of ultramarine blue. Okay, I want to mix up a lot of this color. It's kind of like a grayish color, blue, and a bit of this lemon yellow. Mix that in so that I can get a nice grayish value, maybe a bit more blue in there to darken it off, make it a bit more cooler. Okay, so just a nice grayish color, that's basically a combination of all of your 3 primaries. I'm just moving the paper over a little bit so you can see what's happening with my palette. But yeah, just your 3 primary colors together, and let's just do it. Let's just get this done. So we've got, I reckon, first thing I might start off with is, well, it's tricky. I think I might start off maybe with this shadow shape here, or maybe not. Could go with this building here. Let's just put in a bit of color up the top like this. Okay, good. And now we need to make sure that this building here to the left is darker, because at the end of the day, the shadow or the light is coming in from the left. Okay, and there's actually quite a few different colors and things going on in here, which I will try to kind of just drop in some other colors here and there, but I don't really mind, to be honest. As long as I've just got one big shadow pattern, we can simplify this down and make it look like make it look like we've got a large shadow pattern just running across the left side of the building. Okay, so it's the color I'm using here, again, it's just a gray color I've mixed together from my three primaries. Okay, just trying to get in the whole left side of this building and the shadows like that, coming down. And I'm going to stop roughly where I can see these kind of background buildings, and might have to pick up a smaller mop brush for this. Okay, but just going to stop roughly about here. Okay, and leave the back end for later. I'll come back to it. Okay, but painting this in, and you know, we've also got, it looks like there's a really dark sort of shade here, which I'm going to have to get in extra details afterwards, but we can cut around this and also this umbrella like that. See, just a quick little cutting around for the umbrella, and underneath the umbrella, this is how I'm going to do it. I'm just going to drop that brush in there, because the brush anyway creates those little frilly bits on the umbrella and does all the hard work for me, so I don't have to really do anything myself. So that does the trick. And underneath this as well, there's actually some kind of, I've missed it out, but there's some kind of like shade here, and actually I've forgotten to get it in, like a orange shade or whatever there. And there's a bit of darkness running underneath too, like this, which also helps to shape this umbrella. So sometimes this type of stuff happens where you have to think on the fly and kind of make it work out. Pray for the best, hope for the best. If you've forgotten a little thing like that, okay, but you know, it's no biggie. We've got it. We've got Aggressive Koala. How you doing, Aggressive Koala? Good to see you again. Getting pretty regular viewers these days. Everyone's well, not everyone, but a few of you are definitely doing well and keeping up with me. I started just doing these streams, doing a few more of them to showcase some of my sketching, and now I've just ended up doing like nearly 19 streams or something like that over the last don't know how long, last month. So over here I'm putting in the edge of this shadow. I'm making it a bit darker. Okay, can you see that? Just this shadow on the building there. All right, cut around everything else, like these umbrellas underneath as well, with a little bit of this cutting around work, as you can see. The thing is, all the way into the back section as well, you do notice that there are some darker sections on the buildings, and this is natural because we've got obviously like buildings casting shadows onto the building, this center building as well. So I can just get in a little bit of that darkness there in the background, but I'll leave most of it the same sort of color. Okay, might have to redo that bit afterwards actually. And the big thing is like always trying to get in a shadow shape, a kind of a darker shadow shape that permeates through the entire scene, because underneath here we've actually got a lot of darkness, tons of darkness, and you know, I can leave out little slithers of light here and there Okay, so don't just paint over everything, of course. You do want to leave a bit for later. But I'm cutting around the figures, you know, I'm leaving a bit of this stuff just showing through, some of those figures showing through like that. Okay, but I'm leaving enough darkness in the background to kind of cut around the umbrellas, cut around the figures. Okay, really accentuate those figures and make them pop out a bit more. Okay, and this is all hopefully just going to join together in one big wash. All right, one big wash. And it's what you leave out sometimes in watercolors that really makes the difference. Okay, so I'm just putting in that shadow on the right hand side of that building, and just really pay attention to how I've connected this whole shadow together like that. Oh, this is going to be tricky. Ugh. Not the best at drawing straight lines. I used to do this exercise where I would just sit. It's so boring, but I just sit with a sketch pad and just draw lines in one direction, like hundreds and hundreds of lines. That actually really helps if you're struggling to draw straight lines. But I don't bother really trying to draw straight lines in most of my scenes. I just draw kind of squiggly lines. That solves the problem. But of course, not everyone likes that style. Okay, I'm just connecting the shadows, connecting them all up together. And you know, in the windows as well, you see there are some darker spots. So why not just put in some of these darker spots while we're here? You know, there's not a whole lot of stuff going on in there, but just a little bit of color might be good. Little bit of something in there. Okay, basic like that. On the top of the scene, we have also a shadow running, you know, this same shadow, but it does get a little bit lighter actually. Runs underneath. I'm just trying to, actually, no, maybe we can get away with it. I'm going to use a flat brush. This is going to make things easier for me, I reckon. Just that flat brush here. Like that. And the shadow underneath the top of the building here to the left. You know, definitely just challenging myself a bit here and going slower so that I can put in the details of all this stuff hopefully better than normal, because there's a lot of straight edges in this scene that I didn't quite anticipate or think about before when I was starting off, when I was doing this reference. But there are actually, yeah, there's certainly a lot of stuff, a lot of things going on back here, and looks deceivingly simple, but it's not. So again, this building to the right, it's kind of darker. Again, I'm just going to get in that shape, that large kind of shadow shape on the right hand side of that building. Cut around that motorbike. You know, most of this building is pretty much, I mean, there's just light on the building anyway, on the right hand side, so I won't touch a lot of that. We'll play around with that in just a moment. But the main thing, you know, I really want you guys to focus on is making sure you've got this big kind of shadow pattern, because that's going to be like the main shadow pattern that's running through the entire scene. That's going to carry the scene. So down here below, I've actually let this area unfortunately dry, so which now means I need to mix up some more of this color to replicate that kind of shadow color running further down, you know, over here where that figure is. Yeah, that's why you want to try to do this stuff pretty quickly. Yeah, you do want to try to do this stuff pretty quickly if possible, because once it dries, it leaves a funny kind of patchiness, and you don't want that. You really don't want that with all of your scenes. This is the back of that fella who's just sitting here. I'm really trying to make out what is going on here, but it's tricky. I don't have to like make some of this stuff up actually. The legs of that figure there in the background. There. I'm just gonna put the bottom of that figure in. What else do we have? I mean, we've got the table, you know, we've got some of this stuff here. It's just a lot of darkness. Tons of darkness in here, but I just want to simplify it down and cut around the tables here as well, so that it looks like there's some light or whatever on the table, like that. You know, maybe there's some bits and pieces on the table too. Oops, this one here. I've kind of left a lot of that white there for that reason. Okay. And we can just cut around, leave that kind of boxy sort of look of the, you know, of the table like that. And what we'll do is now blend this into the bottom, and this is where I've got to decide this shadow shape on the ground, guys. That was what was doing my head in, trying to figure out what kind of shadow I want to have coming in. Yeah, it's a tricky one. I'm just sort of thinking here whether I can do that, just get in, leave more of a obvious shadow coming in, light coming in through the center of the scene. It may or may not make sense, like, because the light is coming in actually from an angle where it's almost like directly above to the left. Okay, so there's a bit of that, the shadow of that building being cast here on the ground. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. I'll go with this line, this shadow line here, and the reason why I'm doing this also is so that I can cut around this table as well. Okay, I want to make this shadow, the line of the shadow, very, very sharp. Going a bit slower with this one, because I now realize this is a little bit trickier than I initially thought. Okay, and I'm also adding in a little bit more blue near the bottom of this grey, so just a personal choice, personal touch, because we've got all kind of like warmer greys up the top, so I want to mix it up a touch like this. So we've got a very strong shadow shape, light source. As you can see here, I might actually alter this to just make it look like, because it's like this shadow connects on to the side of the building, which then kind of connects on here. This weird, I guess so, because it's that building that's casting the shadow. Like that, maybe. I do have someone supposed to have a figure in there, but it doesn't matter. I just want to connect that shadow of the building so that it looks like it's cast by that something here to the left hand side, like that. Maybe less of an angle like this. Yeah, that looks better. That. Good. All right. Here we have some more, you know, bits and pieces we want to add on, like for example this balcony here. So I'm picking up some darker color, and again, like I keep running out of this gray paint, but the gray paint I'm using, it is a godsend. Just mixing up a bit of that ultramarine, a bit of this perylene red and a bit of lemon yellow together, I find it just looks so much better than using neutral tint. And you should try to learn how to mix your own colors, especially your primary colors when you start out as well. And Aggressive Koala says, only watching, just moving everything. I'm moving and everything's packed at the moment. Whereabouts are you moving? Hope it's yeah, I hate moving. It's a stressful thing, isn't it? Thank you for coming along today. Anyhow, we've got Marie. Marie says, my internet was down, just picking up now, keeps cutting out, so we'll pick up what I can in between. Okay. Yeah, I hope the stream's looking a bit better. There was some issues before, but it is still plugging along. Amy Sopchak, watching from Southern Ohio. Welcome, Amy. Are you new here? I don't think I've seen you before. I'm going to darken off some of this area. See underneath here, I've noticed the shadows underneath in here actually like a lot darker in some of these parts. So I'm going to exaggerate that and see, I'm just dropping in a bit more. Now here's something interesting as well. There is a darkness on top here for this kind of, you know, shade or whatever there. And I'm going to just simplify that like this. Put in a bit here as well underneath that part of the balcony. Underneath that part of the balcony, you know, we've got a little bit here as well for this, you know, top part of this building in here. And I hope this will actually turn out okay, but my aim here is just to create some darker shadows within the shadows, but also make it look more diffused. So I just think that there is, I want some diffused kind of shadows running in here rather than just some really sharper ones and sharper details, which I can get in later. There's no problem with me getting in some sharper details later, but while the painting is still wet, while the paper is still wet, why not take advantage of that? I think, you know, so I'm thinking to myself, why not take advantage of that and drop in some of this other color and see what happens, yeah? Because you can never, you know, you can never go wrong with sketching, because if it doesn't work out, it doesn't matter. You know, I've not attempted this subject before, but, you know, at the end of the day, if you follow the same kind of process I'm using here, you're not going to have any issues at all with painting almost any subject. Maybe portraits, because you need a bit more, you know, a tiny bit more attention to detail with portraits, but balcony, look, just some of this little stuff, things there with the balcony, okay? Not much at all, just little brush strokes to indicate some of the windows, maybe like coming through here, the you know, I'm using a really large brush as well. Let me drop in some more of this darker paint here. Again, just to indicate some of these windows and details there. The figures, why not do something like this? Yeah, I've not thought about this before, but see, I can just get in some little kind of reflections almost in the pavement. Ooh, damn. No problem. Just some little sort of reflections running downwards like that. Don't know. It's going to be very subtle, but I love playing around with wet and wet details, guys, as you can tell. So any chance that I can get do that, I'm certainly gonna try. Okay, so we've got pretty much the basic shadow patterns and everything in now. The next step is, one, waiting for us to dry, and two, putting in all the tiny little details, and that's hopefully going to just bring the scene together and make it look more complete and not so kind of disjointed as it is now. This is just lacking details. We've got Irvin here as well. Good to see you, Irvin. I think I remembered you from the other day. You're from Romania. Good to see you. You found my YouTube this time around. And guys, if you're enjoying my workshop, do me a big favor and click the like button on the video. It's like a little like button, down the bottom of the video. It helps me to get it out to more people, and also, yeah, share it with a friend or a watercolor group that you're part of. It just helps me out a great deal, so I don't have to, you know, share it myself. And YouTube does promote it, but generally speaking, I don't know what it does. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. So most of them, you know, probably doesn't. You know, so it's does help out a lot, especially because I don't plan a lot of these recent workshops are just kind of going live, and half people don't really know that I'm running them in the first place, but it gives me something to do as well at this time of the day. Okay, so what I want to do here is I want to put in some details for the figures, kind of outline little bits and pieces of color. You know, everything in here looks pretty dull at the moment, which is good, because if I say, let's just say I put in a bit of this blue for this figure here, yeah, tiny bit of blue for this figure, like that, and check out how much that pops through, because there's no other blue in here that you know, that looks like that. You know, I might pick up another kind of color here. This is like a purple lilac kind of color, you know, bit of that for the shirt of that figure. You know, over to the left, I might go pick up some of this grayish color and put in some of that there for this figure. Okay. And, you know, this one here, let's go ahead and pick up some, you know, some blue again, some kind of cooler color, whatever that might be there. Put it in for this one as well. And all the time I'm being kind of mindful to hopefully leave in a little bit of light on the left hand side of the figure, because remember that light source is coming in from the left. So if I can get in some of that light naturally showing through, that's going to be great. Unfortunately, I have missed out a touch on some of these figures, but it's doesn't matter. It's all good. This figure here, someone just sitting down here, it does help, especially for the ones that are sitting at the table, because it's kind of hard to figure out where they're seated. So a touch of color here and there starts to really bring them out a little bit. Okay, not to mention putting in some hair as well for the figures. What have we got here? We've got Nam coming out the side. Yeah, look, just simple bit of pink or something like that. There's another figure here, a little bit of pink for the head, like that. Maybe just that can help to position, indicate where they are seated. But this is all a very loose representation at the moment. But it does look like perhaps there's someone seated there. I might try to get in an indication of someone seated there to the left as well. But really at the moment, because the paper hasn't completely dried, there's not much in the way of actually putting in the the legs of the tables and the chairs and stuff like that. I do notice underneath these, like, you know, these tablecloths, there's like a bit of color. No, I'll just do this to put a bit of it in, because it's kind of dried off enough now for me to mess around with it and not have everything mixed together. So just see just a tiny bit of lighter color, kind of like a reddish color, I suppose, going into it like that. Okay, good. And the legs of these figures now, I should be able to get them in with some darker color, neutral tint, or if you've just got yourself whatever color you've got, a dark color, you can mix it up. Okay, drop in legs like this. Oops. And if I do this quickly as well, it will hopefully just blend into the bodies of these figures. Oh, come on, Darren. That one's too... I've done that one too late. Doesn't matter. Another figure here. This guy looks way too tall. I might have to shorten him down. Looks like a giant compared to the others, but we should be okay. This motorcycle, I'm going to put in some indications of the motorcycle, the little details. It doesn't even look like one really, but it could be anything really, just something like that there. like that. This guy's, yeah, like I said before, he looks touch too tall. So if I can reduce him down a little bit, that should be okay. But I mean, even if I leave him as is, we should be fine. You know, we can get away with that. Okay, some figures in the background here. You know, some darker silhouettes of some figures off in the distance. Yeah, not too much detail, but just a tiny little bit of something in the distance there, like that. Okay, and what else do we want in here? Just gonna mix that a bit together like that. Here. Good. I think I'll work on some of the windows and tiny little bits of detail while we're here. And, you know, this lamp, I can just draw it in with a touch of, just a little bit of this color that I've got on the brush. It's just really just a black, like that. Maybe a smaller brush would actually work better, like a little rigger brush like this. Make my job easier. Okay. You know, these little lamps that you see over in France and Italy that just stick up on the side of the buildings does help to make it look more, it gives it more of that context for sure. Okay, this little brush is what we are using to add in final touches, final details in here, and you know, keeping it pretty light as well. You can see just on the sides of these buildings there's all kinds of stuff going on in here, and my goal is not to get it all in and to stress about all the details. I'm just trying to indicate some of the windows of this building with one brush stroke, and once it's there, I want to move on. I don't want to spend too much time indicating all this stuff. Okay, but we do have this balcony here, which, you know, these balconies which could do with a little few extra lines like this. There's even a balcony here. Didn't see it. Didn't see this one. I'd missed it. Missed out on it before. No problem. We can put it in anyway. Right. This is just a little rigger brush, and the rigger brush makes it easy to put some understated line work in here, and then I'll switch over to maybe this other larger brush, or perhaps that was a mistake. You know, I can just go over, switch back to the rigger brush now. I think this looks better. Just more low key windows that are in the back, running through the building to the left. Okay, loosely based on what I see in the scene. Just over out in the back, but you know, not overdoing it. There's this kind of side of the building. I forgot to get in a little side of that building, but that's okay. The balcony actually starts further down. Actually, I've done the balcony too close to the edge of that building, but that doesn't matter. Hopefully no one's going to notice. I'm just thinking what else I could potentially do. I mean, I can also, I could also just darken down the left-hand side of that building. Yeah, I'm just thinking what to do. I might do that. Might darken down that left-hand side of the building so that the little error I've made with the balcony doesn't seem so apparent, and also join it on as create one big shape instead. Unfortunately, I do have this lamp here which is getting in the way. Hopefully it doesn't do anything, sort of mix in too badly. Okay, good. That looks all right. That looks okay. Underneath here, a bit of that shade. Good, good, good. What else do we have? You know, again, we're just picking out small little details, yeah? So for example here, and when you hold the brush further down as well, you can get and do these tiny little marks that represent these little shutters on the windows. Okay, little shutters on the windows like that. It gives you a bit more control. Normally I'd encourage everyone to hold their brushes as far up as possible, because it just makes it easier to get in some of these looser brush strokes and stops you from overthinking things. But yeah, see some more of these windows. I'm just putting some of them in the background there like that. Okay, simplification of that over in the background. I'm not going to bother much. Maybe here as well, look, some more windows and things here in the background for some of these other buildings off in the distance. Look at that. It's nothing. It's just a few little vertical lines, and that's essentially all I've done to try to imply what's going on in here. The shutter of this window as well. You know, maybe there's something here. I could put a window here or something as well. There, a few little vertical brush strokes like that. Okay, good, good, good. Now the final part of the scene requires a little bit of dry brush work. I'm going to use the hairdryer and we'll bring it all together. Okay, guys, we are nearing the end of this workshop, and the big thing I want to do now is, you know, we've done I've shown you how to indicate some of those bits and pieces like the detailing, but we're just going to put in the final touches. You know, for example, this part here, the chairs and everything like that, like we haven't got any of that in at all. So smaller rigger brush for this really helps. I'm just going to put in, I'm basically using the rigger brush to draw. Okay. And people often ask, do you need to actually know how to draw when you're learning watercolors? And my answer is always, you know, preferably, because, you know, it does make things a lot easier. And if you think about it, at the end of the day, you are pretty much drawing. Painting is an extension of drawing. So if you can get that out the way, or at least, you know, put a bit of effort into learning how to draw some basic marks, painting's going to be easier for you. Okay, especially for little detailing bits like this. Okay. And I'm not, you know, I'm not the best, you know, pencil sketcher as well. I don't really have much patience for it, but you do need to be able to look at objects and be able to reduce it down into some basic shapes, like a semicircle or a rectangle or that kind of thing. You know, you've got the table here that has, you know, sort of squarish shape, but then you've got of course, the bottom part of it as well. That the rigger brush is not picking up paint very well. I'm going to use a larger round brush. Hopefully this will help me to do some of the legs and things maybe underneath the table as well, like that, just to speed this process up a little bit more. I'm getting a bit impatient here. Okay, there's the chair, another chair there. We'll probably put another, there's a chair, sort of, I'm going to get an indication of this chair behind this man's back, like that, sitting in the back there, like that. You know, it's just some little tiny details. A little dry brush stroke running down the page, that's just for like indication of the door or something like that. Another dry brush stroke here. What I'm doing here is just putting in some little final touches in this section, but at the same time I don't want to eliminate that beautiful wash running through there. So, and you know, that's like a waiter or someone walking in the background. I can put that in there as well. I thought that could have been a person, but it's not really going to make sense if I put a person in there. The head's just too high up unless I reduce and put the head there, for example, and the legs there maybe. That's too much. Could be. Let's have a look. Where else do we have people and any kind of something I want to imply? Maybe I'll put a jacket on this person here, this fella. Bit of darker color, just, you know, now he's wearing, looks like he might be wearing a jacket. Remember to get the shoulders in. The legs just look a bit too far apart, but yeah, doesn't matter. This one as well, I think I'll get a kind of the indication of this jacket here. You know, make this person look like he's wearing some kind of jacket. Maybe it's holding a suitcase here. The longer you spend on all this stuff, you can just slowly kind of bring out details. You know, I just tend to get pretty impatient, and I mean, how long have I painted for now? I think close to, it must be 1.5 hours, maybe, or getting close to 1.5 hours. Yeah, getting close to 1.5 hours, but we're almost done. Thank you, Foolish One. Thank you for the support. Yeah, guys, if you have questions, feel free to ask me as well, because I'm here and I'm going to be here for the next, 15-20 minutes or so. So if you are struggling, or if you have some questions about watercolor that you need answered, feel free to ask while I'm around, and we'll go through them live. Okay, there we go. Just rejigging the legs of some of these other figures some more, and kind of helping them join together a touch as well. There's that motorbike, and it does sort of look like a motorbike, doesn't it? A little bit. It looks a bit like a motorbike. I'm still kind of wondering whether I want to get any shadows or anything for the figures. I think they actually look pretty decent as they are. And the same thing goes with, like, some directional lines and stuff like that. I could stuff it if I'm not careful. On the side of the building, so I'm going to use this same little brush here, like this little, rigger brush as well, to get in indications of windows, things like that on the side of this building here, the right hand side. Okay, all I'm doing is picking up a bit of black paint and dragging the brush through to indicate some of this stuff. And there's not really, kind of thinking about it, there's not really a separation between the floors, is there? It just looks all kind of one, weirdly enough. Even the top here, this area, there's like a little bit of something running along like that. You can go mad just doing this sort of stuff, which is why I tend to do it fairly quickly, if possible. I mean, really from here, it's just tidying things up, just adding in extra details and some finishing touches. But do make sure you hang around till the end. I'm going to show you how to get in some of the highlights and the light to come back in to the scene again. Just searching around with my flat brush. Here it is. I don't have too many brushes. Florin's asking me, where do you get your reference photos from? I get them from free reference photo websites. So you can go to Pexels, you can go to Pixabay, you can go to Unsplash. Those are the main places that I get them. And especially if you're an artist looking to potentially sell your art someday in the future, or maybe you go and sell them on the at the markets or something like that, you really need to make sure you're using royalty-free references like I am. I find that you can get some decent royalty-free reference photos, but you do have to look around a little bit, that's for sure. It's hit and miss, but it's worth it. So then you don't have to worry about whether it's copyright, or there's also the case of potentially when you're crediting people as well. There are some reference pictures that you can use, but you have to credit people. But I sometimes might forget to credit them on a particular video, and I just don't want the hassle of that. Anyway, that's like a very long-winded answer, sorry. But anyway, Marie's asking, what brand of brushes do you use, Darren? I don't even know. These are just, the synthetic brushes are pretty cheap. I've been using these for like yonks. I reckon the paint's coming off this one, probably like a couple of years. They're just some cheap synthetic brushes. The mop brushes I use are a brand called Meeden, and they're made of squirrel hair, and that allows them to hold a lot of water. And yeah, from what I hear, the squirrels are not harmed. Squirrels are not harmed when they take the hairs off them. It's not the case with the Kolinsky Sable. But yeah, squirrel brushes do the trick, and synthetic brushes, I tend to use those. They're cheaper and last a really long time, especially for this sort of, when you're doing any little detailing work and things like that. Oh, it's just you have to have some kind of detailing brush. So, I'm just now picking out a few more. A few more little details in here, because I'm really getting to the point now where I'm thinking, I want to finish this off. Okay. Lots of dark color here. This is just like pretty much black, underneath the window as well. There is a shadow. Forgotten to get this in. Little shadow underneath the window here. Okay, let's just do this. Let's paint this shadow in. There. That. Yeah, for some reason, just feels like there's something missing here. I don't know quite what it is, but like, there's just some little bits and pieces I'm not too happy with. Like, for example, the detail. I want some more detail on the stem of this umbrella, like there. There's just these tiny little bits and pieces, yeah, that I want to imply. Even just in this section, there's something that bugs me about this section. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to make a pretend shadow on the building. This is too much. There's not enough contrast on this building. So this can be like a pretend shadow, yeah? See? Cast by a building that's not actually there. Like that. There we go. I think that looks better. There are a few different photos of this scene, and I'd noticed there's another one that had, a light pattern really coming across, a sharper light pattern. But the advantage of this one is that you've got a lot of light being preserved in this particular scene like this. So it yeah, it does emphasize the light more on this center building. Okay. Good, good, good. I'm just really now I'm just thinking to myself, you know, really just trying to add things in. And when you get to this point where you're adding things in for the sake of it, you really near the end of the scene. I might put in a bit of hair. Let's put in some hair for some of these figures, a bit of brown or whatever you want there in the background. Just especially this guy here. Got in, just put in some darker color maybe in this one. Yeah. There. This person can have long hair. Yeah. There. Yeah, here's the waiter or whatever. There's people just sitting on the tables and kind of thing here as well. Okay, you can barely tell that there are people there actually. Just a small indication. I want to put a person potentially sitting here as well. Yeah, this is going to be a very loose representation of a person sitting here. But I just want to put someone in here at the front. And I'll get in a little highlight for the shoulder. And that could be a waiter or something behind. Just coming through. Okay. And that helps. That shadow, that looks better now. You know. I think it might be those some of these guiding lines that's like doing my head in, just thinking whether I want to put in some more some perspective lines. But this is an interesting scene. It's almost like there's it's almost like 2-point perspective really. Let me look. Yeah, he's kind of like a 2-point perspective. I think I'll leave it. Good, cool. What was I going to do next? Oh yeah, a bit of white gouache, guys. Tiny bit of white gouache. And I'm going to be using a synthetic round brush. To finish this one off. Pamela says, looking good. Thanks, Pamela. Glad you're enjoying the show today and you like the painting. I actually found out why I can't squeeze out this gouache, and that's because the tube has like a split down the side, so the stuff's bloody drying out from this little split. Can you see it? A little split in the side there, so it's kind of all drying out from the inside. But yeah, I think this is like 40-50 mils. Yeah, 40 mils of white gouache. Okay, white gouache is like, I mean, this is great stuff for tiny little details that you want to bring back in your scene. For me, it's some highlights, some really bright highlights. Just getting this brush is just not clean, so it's picking up a lot of that gray color. I don't want that. I want it to be completely white. All right, that should be all right. Good enough anyway. So little dot in areas where you want to just bring back a little bit of highlight. You might notice a bit of light come through, like here on the shoulders of the figure. You know, the safest way, just stick the brush into the tube itself. You know, can't go wrong there. Okay, so head, shoulder, head, shoulder, and I'm just picking out some highlights like on for the left. I'm kind of like on the left hand side of the figures predominantly. There's, you know, this figure there. There's also this figure that I was painting in before, and I was saying how I was going to put in a bit of a highlight there to indicate that could be a figure like that sitting down at the table. That could be a waiter behind or something. And sometimes they, you know, they wear those kind of white colored suits. Oh, Looks like he's wearing a dress now. We've got someone wearing a dress in the background. We'll have to fix that up. Nothing wrong with dresses, but it's not what I wanted. Okay. That's why you got to be careful with that gouache. You just be very sparing with it. You know, little touches of white in areas to bring back a little bit of light running through the scene. You know, the top of the umbrellas as well. Look at that, just a little bit of white just running through the top. Yeah. The lamp as well. You know, something here. I'm just sort of picking out potentially a few little, tiny little highlights that we can indicate. Here in the windows, you can just smoothen out some of this stuff, and you know, you do have, like, look at these, the little frames and things coming through the center of these windows as well, like, you know, little background details. You can just put some of this stuff in. Over here, you do something like that. You know, little details that you might have missed out. Okay. Some vertical sort of marks as well. I do find sometimes vertical marks just, don't know, they kind of help, especially in areas of complete darkness or seemingly complete darkness. They can imply some details and things, you know, just break it up a bit, if anything. I don't know why, but I find that it does work. Oops. But yeah, you can be careful not to overdo this. Bit on the head and the shoulder of this person there. Okay, we're getting there, guys. We're getting there to the end. But as you can see, just, you know, like, I'm just putting in these little highlights. And through this, we're getting in more of an indication of figures, the details of the figures. Even of the chairs, the table, you know, just sharpens everything up, makes it look a little bit more crisp and interesting. I do need to fix that bit up there. This guy here, he's more kind of got a darker suit or something like that on, because the darkness here is important. Too much light and it just starts looking very boring. So we really need to get some juicy darks running through as well in the back. Stop looking like a waiter now, but that's no problem. Okay, more light here on the briefcase on the left hand side. Yeah, you know, depending on how much you want to put in. I think I've, you know, if anything, I've probably gone a bit overboard with the gouache, but I'm having fun with it. Here, you know, this balcony, you know, I'm going to put in a few more little bits and pieces here, verticals like that. Okay, you know, I could be tempted to go into the ground and start doing stuff as well, but I like how it's kind of dark there. So guys, I think I'm going to end this one. I think we're finished with this particular scene. I'm quite happy with it. So yeah, I'm going to take off the, let's take off the paper and see what it looks like. And I'll also run through a very short presentation for those of you who are watching now, still watching, about my 70 course program, which you can find in the video description. There's also a link to my Patreon, and there's a bunch of tiers on there. There's a $2 tier if you are enjoying these workshops, you're finding them helpful. That really does help me out to source more materials. I do advertise our Facebook group and a few other things as well relating to these workshops. So every bit counts. And yeah, you've got 3 different tiers on Patreon you can take a look at. If you're finding these workshops helpful, you'll definitely find my full-length courses even more helpful, because I dedicate more time to them, and they're also longer, separated out into individual videos. But I'm going to hang around and go through this quick presentation. And if you're here as well, if you've got questions, let me know how you found the workshop today. And I'll also run through. I'll also answer your questions while you are here. I'm just going to bring up this presentation for a bit. It's for my 70 course watercolor program. And as I said before, you can find the link down in the video description. I'm just waiting for things to load up. But how did you find today's workshop today? I mean, obviously we've got a very, very obvious light pattern here coming in from the left, and you've got this light cutting across, and we're leaving that that light on the building. And remember how I'm just trying to get in all of this shadow with one wash. And if you do it that way, it makes things so much easier. So guys, I'm going to go through this presentation. Let me just flip over to the other screen. Okay, so this here is a little presentation of my 70 course program, and I'll just go through. I don't know why it's taking a little while to load. That's no good. All right. So guys, these are a few of, this is a painting that I did when I first started. This was back in 2015, I believe, and you probably can relate to some of these points here. I was very frustrated at the start because I'd have an image or a general idea of a painting I'd want to portray, but it would just never look like the way I wanted it to look like by the time I was finished. And the trouble is that you have an idea of what you want, but you're not sure how to get to that end result. Okay, understanding the process of painting is just so important. Like we've gone through today, those 3 steps where you're painting the light, you're painting the darks, and then you're adding those final touches at the end. Okay, but it gets a little bit more complicated than that, especially if you're looking at values. In this particular scene here, I've got all different types of values, and values are basically describing how light or how dark an object is. And I've got in this 70 course program that I have, it has a sub course that goes all through values and different exercises that will really change how you paint. And values, or people call it tone as well, really allows you to portray light. And beginners often have these really flat paintings. I had that as well, where I was too afraid to put in shadows. And the worst thing you want, of course, is be questioning whether painting is right for you. And I've been there in the past. I've painted for a couple of years, and I looked at my paintings and I thought every one of them was crap. I wasn't proud of them. It was I didn't want to show anyone, but I did want to show people. But I just wanted them to look like what I planned them to look like. Okay, so here's a few other points that you might also be able to relate to. And I was going through hundreds of different YouTube tutorials, and a lot of them I find are sped up. That kind of they assume knowledge as well. They assume that you understand certain subjects like perspective, even drawing. Okay, but as you can see today, just the act of drawing that sketch in the beginning, an accurate sketch, that really makes a huge difference. If you don't have a decent sketch and you don't have the fundamentals of of perspective, just some basic understanding of perspective, your paintings are always going to look a little bit childish. It's going to be difficult for you to imply like a flat plane if you don't understand, for example, where to place the heads of the figures, how to draw the buildings in the back compared to the buildings at the front, the angles of the lines. Okay, so of course, imagine if you did understand how to do that, if you could understand especially how to apply watercolor techniques, which is something that is probably the most common questions I get asked. But there's only main two watercolor techniques. There's wet on dry and wet on wet watercolor technique, but there's a lot of nuance between them. So when you're talking about wet on wet watercolor technique, timing is so important. Like, when do you actually pick up the paint? How much paint you put on the brush, how much water do you put in the brush, how long do you wait before the paper is dried? I've got a whole class also and different activities in there that will help you improve your wet and wet and wet on dry watercolor techniques. It will really allow you to improve faster. You can see here another one of my paintings when I was back in 2015. I was painting stick figures essentially, and recently this one was actually done, I can't remember, probably about a year and a half ago actually, and this is an area in Bhutan, a nice landscape, mountain landscape. Really love the textures and the light that I managed to portray in this particular scene. Imagine if you didn't have those worries of what to do when you're painting, how to plan your painting. You're going to feel more confident, relaxed. You're going to feel proud to show your friends and family paintings that you finish each week. And more importantly, you're also going to find a way to connect to your creative side. And I find that's something that a lot of people lose. I don't know why, but when people get older, it's almost like you forget your dreams. You forget those, kids, for example, they have that creative side just naturally. You give them some pencils or some crayons or something, and they don't care what happens, they just enjoy it. They just enjoy the process. And finding that again is one of the greatest joys that I have in life. And I feel really lucky to be able to have that, and I hope I can spread that to you guys as well. Through these workshops and also through this program, like I'm mentioning here. So yeah, in a nutshell, this is what you'll learn in my program. So you're going to learn how to paint with more confidence. So I paint with a very loose style, and it looks easy, but underpinning that is some technical ability. So in order to paint with confidence, you need to be competent in the techniques, so you can execute those techniques in a faster manner with fewer brush strokes, and that's where you get confidence from. I'll go through perspective and drawing, which again is something that is not covered in pretty much many watercolor programs. Just assume knowledge, or they get you to trace stuff, and there's no problems with tracing, but drawing I think is essential if you want to create paintings that are really unique. And especially if you paint outside, I do a bit of plein air myself. If you paint outside, you're going to need to know how to draw outside as well, and translate something you see onto paper. Timing, like something I was talking about before, timing, knowing when to do things, knowing when to use wet and wet techniques, how dry the paper needs to be, using brush techniques and water control. Essential as well, knowing how much water to mix into your paints to get certain colors, to get certain mixes that will imply light or shadows. And like I'm saying before, tone and values went along with that. That's probably the biggest, most important component in watercolors, because you know what, if you got rid of all the color and you just managed to use one color and you understood tone and value, that's all you need to create these sort of nice loose scenes with tons of depth. Layering as well. So as you saw today, I painted it almost with just two layers. So the first layer with the light and the second layer with darks, all the shadows, and adding in a few extra dark areas as well. And I'll go through also what my palette is, different colors that I use. Essentially, you don't need all too many colors, just your primaries if possible. Vision is something that I'll also cover through each of the sub courses. So I talk about the reference pictures I'm sketching and what I want to achieve, and that's so important. I think that's not really covered in a lot of watercolor programs. Just thinking to yourself, before you even put the brush to paper, what do you want to achieve here? Do you want to imply the light? Do you want to imply the figures and movement of people, that kind of thing? Do you want to change the scene completely so that there's maybe a car going through it, or do you want to change the orientation of something? That's so important, because some compositions work well, some compositions don't, and you have to know how to plan that, because if you're not planning it appropriately, then you're planning to basically fail at the end and have a painting that just doesn't quite work out. So today I went through a little bit of that with the light sources, and the reference pictures make a big difference as well. I choose reference pictures that are just so much easier to determine where the light and the darkness is, okay, and that's going to make it easier for you. So basically this is what's included in my program. You get 70 courses in there, unlimited access to all those courses. You get hundreds of hours of paint along demonstrations and all the replays of all these previous live workshops as well, plus quick links to the references and quick links to the stencils as well. You learn at your own pace, and all narrated in real time, so you can go back to it, pause the video, come back to it later if you want as well. These are a few of the scenes that are included. There's so many in there, I just decided to put in a few basic ones. Just a few basic ones to show you what's included. But that's an Australian landscape scene. I've got some kind of cottage scene. I do also some of these portraiture scenes, and something I want to do as well, more portraits actually. I've not done a lot of these for a while. Requires a lot of patience and detailing. Here's some more scenes, as you can see, of different landscapes. Pen and wash, I also do these sort of pen and wash landscapes, which are quite popular with people using a black pen, and watercolors. Some more of these loose landscapes as well. Here are some more line and wash scenes. I think this is like a coastal landscapes course, sub-course. This is a house portraits sub-course as well. Doing house portraits, one of my most popular courses. You've got so much stuff in there, but essentially this is just a little taste of what's in there, of the ones, because I could just keep on going on and showing them all, but be here all day. Here are some of my teacher ratings as well. So some of you might not be aware of who I am. I teach on a few different platforms, including Facebook, obviously YouTube, but I do partner with some other teaching platforms as well, and I get consistently high ratings, as you can see here. And here's some of my student testimonials as well. So if you sign up today to my 70 course program, there are a few bonuses that you're going to be able to get, and this is only if you sign up today. So 2 months from the date of registration, I'm going to be available for you if you need tailored feedback. And this is really important, because if you don't get feedback on your work, sometimes you can just miss out on crucial details that will speed up your watercolors, speed up your learning. So for example, I might pick up very early on that you're not painting dark enough, that you need to mix more darks, or maybe you're not letting a part of the paper dry and you're making the same mistake and blooms and making it all very messy out in the back. So I'll be able to pick that up straight away and redirect you, rather than you sort of spinning your tires and repeating that same mistake, which not only frustrates you but makes you less likely to want to continue painting. Because if there's one thing I know, if you have a little bit of success in something, whatever you do, it just sets a fire inside of you to continue on and know that, okay, it's working, I've got something, I'm improving. But a lot of people just give up too easily, and they think that they don't have it in them, but matter of fact they do. It's just that you need to really you need to really know the direction in which you're practicing, not just practicing something over and over again and repeating the same mistakes. You also get access to a private watercolor group. Okay, so this group has access to assistance. Same, so if you want to message me after the 2 months as well, you can message in there and I'll get back to you. Okay, priority support for students. Not all of my students have joined this for some reason, but you should join it because, you know, I check it every now and then. You know, I get alerts when there's questions in there. So I do. There's a few different groups. There's the private group. There's also 2 other public groups. Okay. And of course, the third bonus is you get access to all 90 plus of the previous workshops. And that's basically all the workshops, including this one from today. But you also get direct links to the references and tracing stencils for each scene. So you don't have to actually draw. If you don't want to, you can actually just trace. So, of course, how much does it cost? This is what you get. You get 70 full courses. There's maybe just close to 1,000 videos in there, if not more. And so that's a huge amount of value. I sell each of those individual courses for up to $29. But this is on my own platform, so it makes it a lot easier for me and to earn directly. You've got 2 months of student support, like I mentioned before, private group access, and access to those 90 plus workshop replays. It's huge amount of value in there, and it's going to keep you busy for a long time. And you know, ongoing support as well, and community from other community members. You know, you see people just pitch in and help out, answer questions. I jump in as well. So it's a great way to learn when you've got a community behind you and other people painting the same thing as well, so you can kind of bounce off each other. It just really helps to motivate you. So the normal price, normally I charge $497 for it, but if you get it today, and the link is in the video description or in the chat as well, it's $297. And I know that sounds like a lot, you know, for some of you, but you know, like I said, with each individual course, I do normally sell them for up to $30 per course. So you do get a huge amount of value in there, you know, just with the full 70 full courses in this program by itself. But yeah, those 90 plus workshop replays and the stencils in there as well, you know, all in one spreadsheet. You can go through there and find each one very easily. That's going to help you out heaps. So that is basically it. So if you're interested, just type enroll in the chat. I can send you the link to the program directly, or you can just click the pin link in the chat or in the video description to the 70 course Watercolor Essentials program. There's the link as well if you want to just sign up straight away. And also here are a few little student testimonials I thought I'd chuck up here as well from past students, and people that take my classes. So I have a lot of good reviews, and my main goal is to create good products that actually people use, learning products that people actually use that are actually going to help out and add in a lot of value as well. Because I do know there's a lot of instructors out there will charge, you know, the same price for even 1 or 2 of their courses. So I've got a lot in there, and one day I'm probably going to just split up all those courses into smaller courses. I'll grandfather all the people who've enrolled in this one, but that's one of my plans in the future, to split up all those 70 courses more, because it's just, I think I'm just giving away too much at the moment, and people look at it and they think it's just, you know, is it real? But it is. So here's a few more student testimonials as well. So I'll flip back to the normal screen. That was my little pitch over, but if you have questions, I'm still around and can answer your questions. I'm just seeing who else is here. We've got Marie. Thank you, Marie. Says stunning as usual. Love your style. All just comes together at the end. Yeah, it does. It's that big shadow pattern, and the one thing I think I would change is this. Yeah, I think I might. Next time, I don't know, I want to alter that shadow pattern a little bit, maybe have it come more to the right hand side. Yeah, but it looks okay, but I just felt that this part looks a bit bare. Maybe it's a softer shadow on there would have been interesting, and just blend that soft shadow with the sharper shadow on the right. I don't know, but that's the deal with sketching. you're making it up, you're just giving it a go, and seeing how it actually turns out. And sometimes I sketch the same thing a few times over and see where it ends up. It's the only way to learn, especially if you want to learn to develop your own style. You do need to experiment a little bit and do things differently, and sketching just allows you to do that without the pressure of ending up with anything that looks, too accomplished. Angie says, good morning. How you doing, Angie? People in buildings, street scenes for me. These are pictures at my level. I want to learn portraits. Portraits, yeah. That's something I'm gonna do. I might put just like a tracing template for a portraiture class sometime in May, perhaps, if anyone's interested in that. Pamela is a student in that 70 course program that I just mentioned, and she just left a comment on YouTube. Says, I did this course and enjoyed it. It is worth doing. I enjoyed every minute of it. Thank you, Pamela. And Pamela, you've improved so much since doing that course, and you've done pretty much all the videos in it. I think you're the only person that has done every single video. So well done. And it's always good to see you come along in these workshops as well. Angie says, I like sketching too. My favorite part of your classes is drawing. Wow, that's a change. A lot of people just get frustrated at the drawing section. Get complaints sometimes that I pick references that are too difficult to draw. So yeah, that's good. Have you found my drawing, the explanation of my drawing, okay? Is there any way that I could improve my teaching in terms of like how I've been going through the drawing, drawing part of this workshop? Let me know, because sometimes I do feel like I'm just sort of assuming a bit of knowledge here and there in the live workshops, but at the same time, I don't want to spend too much talking about drawing. Let's have a look here. Angie says, people, scenes, and streets too advanced. So what do you reckon I should do for a next workshop? Do you reckon something like a still life, like some flowers, like a more close-up scene or something like that? Let's have a look. Mylin is saying, shouldn't the sky be bluer? Yeah, you can make the sky bluer, that's for sure. I try to actually dull it down a little bit, and the reason is these days I am trying to adapt. I'm trying to change my palette to a more subdued palette, okay, with more grays, more dulled down colors. My previous style was I was painting really lots of gaudy kind of colors, not much mixing on the palette, but I'm finding with more grays, I just like that more low-key look now. I don't know why. My style is changing a little bit, so that's something I've definitely been doing recently. But yeah, in the reference photo, definitely that sky is a little bit bluer, and you can just add, if you want to make a bluer sky, just mix up more cerulean blue. Don't mix anything else with it, and go straight into the sky. When you make everything a little bit duller, when it comes time to doing the things like this umbrella, see how that umbrella just sticks out there, and even that one there, that these little splashes of red, because they're much more saturated in color, they really draw attention. Even the front of this building as well. Okay, and let's have a look. Angie says, yes, I have. Love detailing. Pace needs to slow down too fast. Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the feedback. One thing you can do, Angie, is you can actually click the settings button on the bottom right-hand corner of the video. It's a little cog, and you can put it to 0.5 speed. I know some people do this, and it doesn't make me sound, like a robot, but it just slows my speech down so that you might be able to keep up. That's a little tip, because sometimes I do talk a bit fast, and I do go fast as well in the beginning when drawing, especially if it's a loose kind of painting that I'm doing. So guys, I think that's pretty much it. I've been streaming for like 2 hours now, so thank you for coming along again today. And I do have 2 more workshops. If you're if you're available in March, early March and early April, go check the Watercolor Mentor Facebook page. I've got both those workshops linked there. If you enjoyed this video, do me a big favor and click the like button on the video and share it with a friend. Share it around on your Facebook, on watercolor groups that you're part of. That really helps me out to just get the video to more people. And yeah, it doesn't cost you a cent either. And yeah, and even if you like these sessions, if you're enjoying these like live sessions, consider supporting me on Patreon. It's the lowest tier is $2, and you get access to all the workshops in a spreadsheet, plus tracing templates that I create as well. So yeah, go ahead and check it out. Links in the video description and also in the chat. Angie says, I love your upcoming beach and nature tutorials coming up, right up my alley. Yeah, this is and I think those two I actually chose those references because they're a little bit simpler. Maybe not the nature one now that I think about it, but you know, two scenes that I think are very common scenes people paint when they're learning watercolors, but I want to make sure that you get the right foundation, you know, the right process when you're painting those type of scenes, so you get it from the beginning. So anyhow, that's about it for today. I hope you enjoyed today's workshop, and I will catch you around next time. Thanks for coming along.